Bill Maher, the self-proclaimed truth-teller of late-night talk shows, has found himself once again in the spotlight, and this time, he's dragging Hollywood royalty into the mix. The drama surrounding his increasingly bold commentary is unfolding like a soap opera, complete with unexpected plot twists, dramatic monologues, and enough shade to cover a football field. For years, Bill Maher has played the role of the political rogue. Love him or hate him, he's always had a knack for, ruffling feathers on both sides of the aisle. But in recent months, Maher's opinions have been about as consistent as weather in April. Sunny one moment, stormy the next. His once steadfast stances on certain issues have seemingly been tossed aside, replaced by new, often contradictory opinions. It all seemed to take a sharp turn after November 5th, the event that Maher himself has referred to multiple times as a game changer. What happened that day? Well, depending on who you ask, it was either the political apocalypse or just another chapter in the ongoing saga of modern democracy.
Someone must tell the usual suspects on the far left that the saying is, when you're in a hole, stop digging. You just lost a crazy contest to an actual crazy person. What a shocker that the people who see everything through the lens of race and sex see their election loss as a result of racism and sexism. Yes, if only we weren't so irredeemably unenlightened, we would have elected a black president by now. Oh, what, we did? Asked if racism is built into our society. White progressives agreed with that at higher levels than black and Hispanic people. They don't want your pity. And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
But before we get started with this whole drama, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the latest news surrounding Hollywood. Maher's critics are quick to label his recent behavior as pandering, a desperate attempt to keep his audience engaged in a climate where loyalty is fickle and talk show ratings are even more so. But Maher's defenders argue that he's simply calling it as he sees it, even if that means burning a few bridges along the way. The latest casualties of Maher's verbal rampage, none other than Julia Roberts and George Clooney. Once admired by Maher for their star power and influence, the duo has now found themselves on the receiving end of his razor-sharp tongue. Julia Roberts in particular seems to have drawn Maher's ire for her outspoken political activism. According to Maher, Roberts has been leading what he sarcastically dubs the Resistance 2.0, a movement he claims is doing more harm than good. Maher's comments on Roberts were as cutting as they were direct. Sometimes, I just don't get it with some of these actors that just don't know when to shut up already, he quipped during a recent episode of Real Time. After they lost, you lost. Get on with your life.
For months, Democrats have been saying, how is this even close? And they're right, it wasn't. They could not conceive of a second Trump term, but they should have. When does America ever turn down seconds? I mean, come on.
For someone like Roberts, who has been vocal about her views on gender equality and social justice, these comments must have hit like a ton of bricks. But Maher wasn't done. He went on to accuse Roberts of blaming toxic men and even other women for the outcome of the last election, painting her as out of touch with the broader public. It's okay to be a woman until you vote for the wrong person, I guess, he sneered. The subtext here was clear. Maher believes Roberts and others like her are out of step with the realities of modern political discourse. George Clooney, another Hollywood heavyweight, didn't escape unscathed. Maher's critiques of Clooney were slightly less personal but no less scathing. Clooney, according to Maher, represents a broader problem in Hollywood. The tendency of celebrities to use their platforms for political activism in ways that Maher sees as counterproductive. 2 weeks ago, Maher reportedly lambasted Clooney for his involvement in various social causes, suggesting that his efforts were more about virtue signaling than genuine change. What makes Maher's criticism of Clooney particularly noteworthy is the apparent hypocrisy. Maher himself has a long history of using his platform to discuss political issues, often with a similarly preachy tone. Yet here he is, chastising Clooney for doing the same. The irony isn't lost on anyone, least of all Maher's critics, who have been quick to point out the double standard. Of course, it wouldn't be a Bill Maher rant without a lengthy diatribe against woke culture and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives.
How do you define wokeness? Because I hear people use the term all the time, and it means something different to everybody.
Well, again, I think it's this collection of ideas that are not building on liberalism, but very often undoing it. I mean, 5 years ago, Abraham Lincoln was not a controversial figure among liberals. We liked him. Now they take his name off schools and tear down his statues. Really? Lincoln isn't good enough for you? 5, 10 years ago, bedrock liberalism was we are striving to be a colorblind society where we don't see race. Of course, we see it, but it doesn't matter. That's not what woke is. Woke is something very different. It's identity. We see it all the time. It's always the most important thing. I don't think that's liberalism. I mean, I could mention so many issues like that.
Maher has long been a vocal critic of what he sees as the overreach of progressive ideologies in Hollywood and beyond. In his latest tirade, he argued that these initiatives have made it harder for comedians to succeed, painting a bleak picture of an industry stifled by political correctness. It really is mind-boggling to me how they just don't understand that people have a mind of their own, Maher said. Nobody likes woke anymore. Nobody likes DEI coming from all these studios and organizations. According to Maher, actors like Julia Roberts are doubling down on these ideologies, even as public sentiment turns against them. Why are these actors deliberately driving their careers into the ground? He mused, genuinely perplexed. Maher's disdain for woke culture isn't new, but his rhetoric has become increasingly pointed in recent months. He seems to be positioning himself as the last bastion of free speech in an industry he views as overly sanitized and ideologically homogenous. Whether or not you agree with his assessment, it's clear that Maher sees himself as a voice of reason in a sea of madness. What's perhaps most fascinating about this entire drama is the broader trend it reflects.
Woke is what was sort of ruining everything, and I know that you're...
No, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected.
Yeah.
So the term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized, and so I was surprised to hear you use the term because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the Black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words
And so
migrate.
Maher isn't the only public figure turning on Hollywood elites. He's part of a larger wave of personalities who are distancing themselves from the political activism that once defined the industry. Whether it's out of genuine disillusionment or a calculated attempt to stay relevant, the result is the same: a growing rift between Hollywood's old guard and its more progressive elements. Maher's critiques, while harsh, tap into a sentiment that's becoming increasingly common among the public. Many people are tired of being lectured by celebrities, particularly when those lectures feel disconnected from the realities of everyday life. Maher himself has acknowledged this, stating that the more actors like Roberts and Clooney speak out, the less credible they become. Nobody wants to hear from Julia Roberts going off about her views of toxic men and how women made the wrong choice, apparently, he said. Of course, not everyone is buying Maher's newfound crusade against Hollywood activism. Critics have accused him of being an opportunist, someone who shifts his views to align with whatever will get him the most attention. After all, this is the same Bill Maher who once praised figures like Roberts and Clooney for their activism. The sudden change of heart has left many wondering if Maher is simply jumping on the anti-woke bandwagon for the sake of ratings. Maher, for his part, seems unbothered by the accusations. If anything, he seems to relish the controversy, using it as fuel for his increasingly fiery monologues. Whether or not you agree with him, there's no denying that Maher knows how to keep people talking. Where does all this leave us? On one hand, Maher's critiques of Hollywood activism tap into a genuine frustration that many people feel. On the other hand, his own history of political commentary makes his arguments feel a bit hypocritical. Either way, it's clear that Maher isn't backing down anytime soon. For Julia Roberts and George Clooney, this drama is likely just another day in the life of a Hollywood star. For Bill Maher, however, it's a golden opportunity to solidify his brand as the ultimate contrarian. Whether or not it pays off in the long run remains to be seen. But one thing's for sure, Maher isn't afraid to ruffle a few feathers, and he's certainly got plenty of them to choose from. So, what do you think? Is Bill Maher a voice of reason in a chaotic world, or is he just another opportunist looking to stay relevant? If you guys liked today's video, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.